Hey YouTube, it's Asa'r. I am making another video before my shift starts. So, I've been really listening to what I've been reading. Literally listening to it. I've retained it better that way. And I've realized something that, for the most part, makes more sense when in regards to the northern and southern kingdom. It says that the northern and southern kingdoms would be brought down into captivity together. Okay, well, you have to look at that literally. So, if the northern kingdom consisted of everything on this side of the Americas, like the land of Utah or Utah, is on this side of the world. The islands, all the Caribbean islands, Haiti, all of that, all of the islands are basically a part of the West Indies, which is pretty much connected to North America because, well, Florida is how you get to the islands and everywhere else over there, including Haiti and the Dominican Republic and Jamaica. All of them are you get there through Florida. The same goes for Cuba, right across from Florida. So I was thinking that if that consists of the Northern Kingdom, then that also should mean if we were brought down into captivity together, well, they got to the West Indies first. They got to so-called North America first before they got to the East Indies, which would be South America. So you have to think, if the Northern Kingdom fell into captivity first, since they got to North America, why did they choose to name the continents North America and South America when originally they were the West and East Indies? So I started thinking, and it came to me that the Northern Kingdom is what North America represents. It represents because, one, if you think about it, North America collectively, along with the islands, all are a part of the West Indies. So that would technically be a part of North America. That includes Mexico too, because, well, California originally belonged to Mexico, or for the Mexique. So technically, there really isn't a Central America if you think about it, because, well, there was only the West and East Indies, and that consisted of basically all of the northern part and all of the southern part. If you think where Central America, where they say it is, technically it's still a part of the North American part of the continent, because it is connected to Canada. I mean, not Canada, but California, Texas, and Arizona. So you can get there through there, which is a part of North America. And then I was watching a video, one of Caramel's older videos, on the Aboriginals and the Hebrews, which we all know is synonymous, one and the same. And one of his videos mentioned, which was down there in Peru, talking about King David, but it also mentioned the children of Benjamin. Now, we know Benjamin's line is the southern kingdom. That's Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. So the children of Benjamin would be considered the southern kingdom. Well, down there by Peru or in South America, if it's mentionings of the children of Benjamin, then that is telling you right there, that's the southern kingdom. They talk about Egypt and the Red Sea, but you have to also realize, where is the original Red Sea? Right where California is. Because California is technically an island. So the Red Sea is there by California. Where was the original Egypt? Tamari. That was also here. So if Egypt was originally here, as we should all know, the southern kingdom wandered in the wilderness for 40, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but 40 years. So for 40 years, they wandered the wilderness. Well, where is the wilderness at? Where is a desert at? Well, there's deserts here in the Americas. Nevada is technically a desert. So is Arizona. And parts of New Mexico are basically deserts. And a wilderness, South America would be full of wilderness too. Because the wilderness would be basically forests, rainforests, wilderness, where the wildlife completely flourishes, which would be considered wilder. So there's your wilderness. So that would mean for the northern and southern kingdoms to go into captivity together. They didn't really bring any so-called Africans or Ethiopians over here, because by their own records, they were shuffling up American Aborigines between the West and East Indies, and just shuffling them up. So they're taking people from the West Indies of the islands, the mainland, and Aborigines of South America, which are the East Indies, the East Indians, and shuffling them up together after they finally got to South America. People, look at how they started to call things North and South, when originally, when they first came here, it was just the West and East Indies. Now, I'm going to tag Elder Ayal, Big Judah, and Sabal Nabaya, because that needs to be looked into. And this is just using logic, and what's literally, the enemy puts everything directly in front of our faces. That is how they've been playing this little charade for the last 4 centuries. Is putting things in front of our faces where it's right there, and you walk by it every day and you don't even see the truth is right there. The same as they put the truth in their movies, the truth in their books, the truth in their wording. It would make sense that they put the northern and southern kingdom right in front of your face. Why did all of a sudden they come up with North America and South America? It wasn't originally called that. They originally called it the West and East Indies. And this is by Christopher Columbo's own words, aka Christopher Columbus. So by his own words, it was called the West and East Indies. He called it the Indies. Yes, he knew it was called America, but he knew it was the Indies. They came up with North and South later. No one ever realized that. But in order, and this is what makes sense. And do correct me if I am wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not. Because it makes logical sense. If they didn't really bring any Hamites over here after Canaan and his lot were expelled from this land, which they inhabited illegally without permission. But other than that, there were no Hamites really brought over here, not in a indentured servant and or slave capacity. So you have to think, if that's the case, then the Southern Kingdom is all of what represents South America, the East Indies. Because the West and East Indians, the West and East Aborigines, were put into captivity together. After South America was found by the Palefaces, that is when they started to shuffle things up in the 16th century, the 1500s, towards the middle of the 1500s, to be exact, like 1514 to 1516. Either way it goes, that's towards the middle of the 16th century. So, looking at scripture itself, it says the northern and southern kingdom for the first time would be put into captivity together. They didn't bring any so-called Africans over here, because we are of no African or Hamite. We're not descendants of Ham. We are not descendants of Canaan. We are of Shem's lot. Therefore, how can this northern and southern kingdom be put into captivity together? Unless that isn't, that when they say that, they literally mean exactly what they said. The northern, hence North America, northern kingdom, North America. The southern kingdom, South America. Think why they came up with North and South when it was originally the West and East Indies. So yes, the northern and southern, the northern and southern kingdoms were put into captivity together. The West Indians, the East Indians were brought down into captivity together. It makes sense. It makes logical sense. Egypt, Tamari, was here. The Red Sea is here. We have deserts here. We have wilderness here. They only put the captivity of the East and West Indies when it comes to its inhabitants, as far as being put into captivity together. So, and again, Carameo, his video points that out blatantly. Because when I looked at that video and I saw children of Benjamin, well, Benjamin is of the southern kingdom. You have Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. That is the southern kingdom. So if they are the children of Benjamin, that means they are of Judah's line. They are of the southern kingdom's lots. Literally. Because this side is where all the lands that was promised to Jacob's seed. So there's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Or Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. So that makes a lot more sense. That's because there's also passages, again, referencing Carameo's video and Judah and Elder Ayal. It blatantly says that the children of Israel went against a group, and then they realized that same group, that group of people, basically, putting it in layman's terms, had the same abilities that they had. They could basically yell and make the ground shake. And they realized, well, they have the same abilities. Okay, well, if they have the same abilities, so to speak, then that means they are of a chosen line. because only the children of Israel and Judah's line were, as far as the priesthood, was blessed with certain supernatural abilities. All of them. So they came across basically their brothers. So how can they come into contact with people who have the same abilities as them? What is close to the Northern Kingdom? The Southern Kingdom. What is close to North America? AKA North America. South. So there you go. The Northern Kingdom didn't know anything about the Southern Kingdom, and the Southern Kingdom didn't know anything about the Northern Kingdom. They didn't know about each other. At one time they knew about each other, but when you go a couple millennia apart from one another, eventually you're going to lose the remembrance of your brother. And they literally did. I mean, I am literally using information from Judah, Big Judah, Elder Ayo, and Caramel's information, along with Dane Calloway. So this all makes a lot more sense when they talk about the Northern and Southern Kingdom being put into captivity together. Because they did. The northern part of the Americas and the southern part, the West Indies and the East Indies, were put into captivity together. They weren't put into captivity together at the same time, but the Southern Kingdom was brought into captivity later. The East Indies didn't fall into captivity until later. You see how everything literally lines up? They've been telling you where the Southern Kingdom is since this has been considered a nation under Esau's rule. Under the great abominable church's rule, to be exact. So, I'm going to tag Big Judah, Elder Ayal, and Sabal Nabai along with Carameo. Because it was Carameo's information that I was guided to that made the light bulb go off in my head. Because it makes a lot more sense. If they didn't bring any so-called Africans over here, which they didn't, because go back and look at Dan Calloway's information when he's talking about the so-called slaves. Well, by their own records, they were shuffling up West and East Indians, Aborigines of the Americas. That's the East Indies, the West Indies. If they were shuffling them up, they didn't bring any damn Africans. And any Africans that came over here were willing to come here. And those who were actually slaves got rejected and taken back home by other so-called Europeans when the ship got hijacked. And they found what real deal Africans that were on there, they were taken back to Ethiopia. Back to the Eurasian Peninsula. To wherever they were headed from, they went back. Therefore, they were not on American lands. If they got sent back, it tells you blatantly what they were doing. So, how can anyone not realize that the North and South Americas, that they call it now, when it originally was the West and East Indies, is telling you where the Northern Kingdom is and the Southern Kingdom, hence North and South. Northern, Southern Kingdoms. Because you have to realize that Egypt over there in Ethiopia, aka Africa, is new. Really new. Look at the construction of it. It's not the same. Yeah, it's, geometrically, a feat. But compared to over here, it falls well below the standard that was set here. And another thing, even Caramel, his information talks about the flood. Well, the Great Deluge, from the records, was one isolated event. Which means it was isolated from where the Atlanteans, or Atlantis, was destroyed. It sank. Volcanic earthquakes, everything. Yahweh destroyed them with a flood. So the Great Deluge is the Great Flood. That was just being retold by the ancient Romans, the real ancient Romans who were colored, the real ancient Greeks, again, who were colored, the real Chinese, Japanese, who, again, were all colored. So they were telling you, they were retelling the same Great Deluge because it was history. That is what they were doing. They were telling the history of what occurred. And they made sure it was told over and over so that it would not be forgotten by anyone. So again, Caramel information is golden. He's telling you what they've been writing this whole time. And I am not going against my brothers, Big Judah, El Dayal, or Sabal Nabaya. I'm not going against y'all. I'm just trying to get y'all. I want y'all to look into this yourselves. And you will see what I'm seeing. Why did they call North America when originally it was just called the West Indies? If you look at everything what the scripture says about the Northern and Southern Kingdom's captivities, and look at the history of the West and East Indians of North America and South America, they were put in captivity together. By Caramel's video, when it was talking about the Hebrews and the Aborigines, one of the parts of that, I'm not sure which one, but it was the one on the Hebrews and the Aborigines. It mentions, and Caramel, I'm going to tag him in this. He'll know what video it is because he created it. But the one that talks about, that mentions in the book he was reading, the children of Benjamin. Anyone who knows about the Southern Kingdom knows what that means when they say the children of Benjamin. That is the Southern Kingdom. So again, I will be tagging them in this video because I want them to look at this themselves and see if you come up with the same conclusion that I have been led to come to, because it does line up, it does make sense. Just because these palefaces created a new Red Sea by giving a sea that was not the Red Sea a new name, just because they did that and gave, every location by definition a new identity, they've been doing that for the last 4 centuries. Or, over 4 centuries, 5 centuries to be exact. So, that's not really a shocker. If everything originated here, on this side of the world, which it did, then everything that they refer to as Egypt, because again, Tamari was here. Everything that they talk about was here. It happened here. On this side of the world. Because people didn't go over into Ham's land until after the deluge of Atlantis. After. Hence the Great Flood. So, my thing is, look at what is being shown to you in front of your face. They've been doing that for centuries now. It makes a lot more sense to me that that's what they've been doing. Because all of a sudden it became North America and South America, when it was just the West and East Indies originally. They will tell you the truth and put it in your face like they do with everything, because they know they have everyone so dumbed down and ignorant that they can do it, and no one who has eyes to see, at least, or ears to hear, would be able to see it or make sense of it. They're basically blind to it. So all praises to Yahweh. So again, I will be tagging Elder Ayal, Sabal Nabaya, and Big Judah along with Carameo. Because if it weren't for Carameo's information that I was led to, I wouldn't have come to this conclusion of where the Southern Kingdom actually was. Because they've alluded, as far as these palefaces, when they put our records together in their books and made it confusing and put everything literally out of order, they made sure that they purposely alluded that it was over in Ham's land. But the same as they alluded that the Northern Kingdom was in Ham's land, they did the same thing with the Southern Kingdom. And you realized, oh, the Northern Kingdom is here. Well, they did the same thing with the Southern Kingdom. They made sure they alluded, and that's why they created these false names. They stole the names and put it over there purposely. Because if you think about it, that's all the Southern Kingdom. So they purposely named things after things that was already here. So, again, I just wanted to come forth with this information. And like I said, it makes sense that the Northern Kingdom is, yes, the North American part. That includes the islands, all of them. Pacific Islands as well. All of that. Fiji, all of that is connected. That you can get to from Florida would be considered all of the West Indies. All west. Which would technically, because of Florida, would all be northern part of the Americas. Everything on the other side is East Indies. South America. Tries Most High. And to all my new subscribers, thank you for subscribing to my channel. And those of you who are new to my channel, please subscribe. And I'll be coming with more information. Thank you.